Hello everyone. Welcome back to this channel. There are moments in the world of entertainment that seem completely ordinary at first. A camera turns on. Two people appear in the same frame. They smile. They look at each other. And then, fans begin to notice something. Not a confession. Not an official announcement. Not even a direct statement from the two stars themselves. Just a moment. A moment that suddenly makes thousands of people stop and ask, "Wait, did you see that?" On August 21st, a discussion surrounding Zhang Linghe Tian Xiwei once again caught the attention of fans. A Sina post titled, roughly describing the bright atmosphere between Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei in the same frame, began attracting attention because of one particular interpretation. The atmosphere between them looked unusually sweet. And that single observation was enough to reopen an old conversation. The conversation about LingXi. The conversation about chemistry. And most importantly, the question fans have never completely stopped asking. What exactly is it about Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei that keeps people looking back at their interactions? At first, it may sound like just another celebrity fandom discussion. But this time, something felt different. Because fans were not simply talking about a scene from a drama. They were looking at their body language. Their expressions. The distance between them. The way they appeared when they were standing beside each other. And suddenly, every small movement seemed to become part of a much bigger story. One fan notices a smile. Another notices eye contact. Someone else notices the atmosphere. Then another person says, "Look at this moment again." And suddenly, the same few seconds are being replayed again and again. Slowly. Carefully. Frame by frame. This is where the story becomes fascinating. Because there is a very important difference between what fans see and what we actually know. The post did not represent a confession from Zhang Linghe. It did not represent a confession from Tian Xiwei. Neither actor publicly confirmed a romantic relationship through this discussion. What fans were seeing was an interpretation. An emotional interpretation of a visual moment. And yet, sometimes, in fandom culture, interpretation can become powerful enough to create an entire conversation. That is exactly what happened here. The more fans looked, the more questions appeared. Why did their interaction feel so natural? Why does their chemistry continue to attract attention even after the drama has moved beyond its original promotional period? And why, after so much time, are people still comparing their smallest expressions? There is something almost quiet about this kind of fandom phenomenon. No dramatic announcement. No shocking press conference. No official statement. Just fans watching. Watching again. And watching one more time. Trying to understand whether what they are feeling is really there. Or whether the emotion comes from the story they already associate with these two actors. And perhaps that is the most interesting part. Because when audiences love a pairing, they don't just remember the characters. They remember the pauses. The smiles. The glances. The awkward moments. The tiny reactions that were never meant to become headlines. And when Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei appear together again, those memories return. Suddenly, a simple frame does not feel simple anymore. It carries history. It carries expectation. And it carries the imagination of thousands of viewers. But then came the part that surprised many fans. The supposed clue was not actually a clue in the traditional sense. There was no secret message. There was no confirmed statement. There was no hidden confession. The shocking realization was much simpler. Fans themselves had become part of the story. They were the ones examining the footage. They were the ones comparing expressions. They were the ones asking whether the atmosphere meant something more. And perhaps, That tells us more about the strength of this fandom than any rumor ever could. Because when a pairing can generate this much discussion from something as small as a shared frame, it means the audience is still emotionally invested. Still curious. Still watching. Still asking questions. And that is why the August 21st discussion became so interesting. Not because it proved anything, but because it showed how quickly a small visual detail can reignite an entire fandom. Imagine the scene. A video appears. Zhang Linghe is there. Tian Xiwei is there. Nothing extraordinary happens. And then, the comments begin. Did you notice that? Look at their expressions. Why does this feel so natural? Another fan watches the same clip and sees something completely different. Maybe it's chemistry. Maybe it's familiarity. Maybe it's simply two actors who worked well together. Or maybe it's the audience projecting years of memories onto a few seconds of footage. And that question is impossible to answer from body language alone. This is where we have to slow down. Because entertainment fandoms can sometimes turn interpretation into certainty. A smile becomes evidence. Eye contact becomes evidence. Standing close becomes evidence. A reaction becomes evidence. And before anyone realizes it, a possibility becomes a fact. But those are not the same thing. What we can say is that fans noticed the interaction. What we can say is that the moment generated discussion. What we can say is that Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei continue to attract strong attention when they appear together. But what we cannot honestly say is that a few seconds of body language prove what either actor privately feels. That line matters. Especially when the people involved have never publicly confirmed the conclusion fans are making. And perhaps that is what makes this story even more emotional. Because sometimes the most powerful fandom stories are not about what has been confirmed. They are about what remains unanswered. Think about it. If everything had already been explained, would people still be talking? If there were no mystery, would fans still replay the videos? If there were a clear answer, would everyone still be asking the same question? Maybe not. Maybe the mystery itself is part of the reason this pairing remains so fascinating. LingXi fans have watched their journey through drama scenes, promotional moments, public appearances, interviews, and countless fan edits. Each new appearance becomes another piece of a much larger memory. And when two familiar faces return to the same frame, the past suddenly meets the present. That is why even a simple interaction can feel emotional. Not necessarily because it reveals a secret relationship, but because it reminds fans of why they cared in the first place. And then comes another question. What happens next? Will Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei work together again? Will another project bring them back into the same story? Will fans eventually move on to another pairing? Or will every new appearance continue to bring LingXi discussions back to life? For now, there is no official answer to that question. And perhaps we should leave it that way. Because the beauty of a fandom story is sometimes found in the space between what we know and what we wonder. One thing, however, is clear. The August 21st discussion showed that the interest surrounding Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei has not simply disappeared. A single frame. A single expression. A single moment was enough to make people look again. And again. And again. Maybe that is the real story. Not whether one glance proves something. Not whether one smile secretly means something else. But why? After all this time, people still care enough to look. They still care enough to discuss. They still care enough to ask. Did you notice that too? And maybe that question is more powerful than any answer. Because in the end, Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei are the only two people who truly know what they feel and what their interactions mean. Fans can observe. Fans can interpret. fans can remember. But the final meaning belongs to the people themselves. So now, I want to hear from you. When you watched the recent Zhang Linghe Tian Xiwei moments, did you notice something different? Was it genuine chemistry? Was it simply the natural comfort of two actors who worked successfully together? Or do you think fandom memories are making every small interaction feel much bigger than it really is? And most importantly, do you think LingXi fans will still be talking about Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei months from now? Maybe even years from now? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes, the most interesting part of a celebrity story is not the moment itself. It is what happens after everyone starts asking, what did we just see? If you enjoyed this kind of emotional entertainment analysis, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because the next Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei moment could start another conversation all over again. Until then, keep watching, keep questioning, and remember, sometimes one frame is enough to make an entire fandom remember a story that they never truly forgot.